Besides parallels to ancient texts, the Book of Abraham also has support in its depiction of a strong Egyptian influence in Abraham's homeland. This evidence also explains how a copy of the Book of Abraham could have ended up in Egypt.
One of the stories that intrigues me most is how would they have ended up with stories about Abraham in Egypt?
The whole idea of Egyptians being up in Abraham's territory, well, this is now a fairly well supported fact, although it's been within the last 10 years, 10, 15 years, has shown that yes, there were Egyptians up there. And we have some archaeological evidence for it. It's a very specific time period during the reigns of Sesostris III and Amenemhat III that you actually find Egyptians up in that area. And then after that time period, they're gone. So there's about a 50-year window when that can occur. But who would have thunk it 100 years ago?
In Thebes, which was the city, modern-day Luxor, where the Book of Abraham had come from, there was a huge Jewish presence at that time, and there was a lot of interchange between symbols, and we know that the Egyptians borrowed, and the Jews borrowed symbols, religious symbols especially, and so it's not unusual that the Egyptians or the Jews would have used the symbolism that's involved in the vignettes that we find in the Book of Abraham.
We know that ancient Egyptian priests knew something about Abraham, and that in the early Ptolemaic period you actually have a Greek writer, Hecataeus of Abdera, goes down into Thebes in Egypt, talks with the priests, and afterwards writes a book about Abraham. Well, that book is lost.
What's also interesting is that from some of these Egyptian texts, we know that they had a knowledge of Abraham. In one temple collection of papyri, where there's magical incantations and help for leading people to the afterlife, Abraham is mentioned within these texts, and Jehovah is mentioned in the text frequently. So they borrowed and interchanged between each other. It wasn't unusual.